Bisco Hattori first published Ouran High School Host Club the anime on July 24th, 2002. The series involved a poor high school girl named Haruhi Fujioka, who got accepted to the richest and most expensive high school in the area because of intellectual scholarships. However, she's dressed up in boys' clothes because she couldn't afford a girl's uniform. When trying to find a place to study, she comes across Music Room 3, where the school's host club is held. While Haruhi tries to escape, she accidentally breaks a vase that the host club was going to sell at auction, so in order to pay for the damages, the host club's leader, Tamaki Suo, son of the school's president, forces her to work in the host club, not aware that Haruhi is actually a girl until later. The series was one of a kind at its best, because though harem series was such a thing, there was no such thing as a reverse harem. Or if there was, they didn't make as much of an impact as Ouran High School Host Club did. It was supposed to parody harems to prove that even girls could be just as dense as male harem leads. But that part flopped because Haruhi at least had more personality than those dense male leads and chose a boy to marry at the end. Because it was so popular, Studio Bones decided in 2006 to turn the popular manga series into an anime, and that skyrocketed the series' fame even further. However, despite it being a 26-episode anime, it didn't exactly end because the manga series was still going. The manga didn't finish until September 24th of 2010, which was 7 years ago. Despite that, the studios has not announced adding on to the anime. So I know this pick seems obvious, and we probably know which medium would win in this said case because it's Ouran High School Host Club. But I want to dive a little bit more in depth as of why the medium has been split for this said case. That's basically what this episode of Versus is about. So without further ado, this is Ouran High School Host Club, manga versus anime. Now, for this portion, I already discussed the majority of the plot of this show anyway, and also people pretty much know the plot of Ouran High School Host Club like the back of their hand. Both the manga and the anime do tell the story as we know it in the way that they were supposed to be presented. Haruhi's involvement in the host club, some of the host club members' backstories, even introductions to some side characters who I wish didn't even show up in the first place. What the anime does right is move the first half of the series in the way it should have been. Though both the manga and the anime had their filler moments, but it's easy to say that the manga had more filler than the anime due to how many chapters it had the year the anime came out. As far as explaining how the series went so far as the anime was concerned, I believe it did its justice. Justice is the key word here. When it did come to the rest of the series, the manga released after the anime, it did become more plot-based and explained a lot more questions the anime fans had when the series, the anime version at least, at the end of 2006. Towards the end of the manga, the fillers become less and less about the host club and more about what Haruhi really wants because the host club actually gave her insight. The anime didn't do that because it ended before Haruhi could get those thoughts fully developed. Not only her, but the boys as well. The more the series went on, the more interested everyone got into it. We got to know more about them and we got to see that they were more than just harem stereotypes. Yes, this series did make us spoiled when it comes to harems, but if we're gonna be honest, were the other harems that good to begin with? This part of the review doesn't go much into the plot of the story, but it's more about how the plot is stretched out in each of the mediums instead. So, a in-depth battle between, fighting about manga or anime is better in plot-based scenarios is kind of absurd for the show here. Because the manga has stretched it out a little more, and of course, the manga is obviously more complete than the anime, then it would be more than obvious that the manga would win this section. It's kind of unfair, really, but there's really no other option to it. Like I said in the plot section, Ouran kinda spoiled us when it came to character development in the harem genre. Honestly, when people hear harems, of course each character is going to have a certain personality trait that defines them and makes them different from the rest of the group. However, what seems to be happening a lot is that if one trait actually becomes their personality, and that's the one thing that they portray for the rest of the show. Like, I want you to imagine in real life that each person in the world had only one personality trait, and that was the only thing that kept them going. It would be extremely annoying to try to talk to them in real life if they don't have much opinions, don't they? Both manga and anime start with the characters meeting and Haruhi getting used to the ways of the host club. Of course, she sees that each of the boys have a trait that gets the customers fangirling like mad. One is the suave leader who sometimes doesn't have a brain and is totally using the daddy-daughter relationship to hide the fact that he's in love with the lead. Another is a career-driven youngest son because he just wants to be noticed by God knows how many senpais. Then we got the famous or infamous twins who may or may not have a thing for each other. Then we get the Shota who will literally kick your ass if you piss him off. And the last guy is the quiet serving cousin of the Shota who will kick anyone's ass when pissed off as well. In both mediums, the personality types are pretty consistent. So that's why, of course, Ouran High School Host Club started changing that perception of harem stereotypes. Because if you're going to create multiple characters in a group, we need to have a reason why we want to like them or hate them other than ways of, oh, they just have one trait that defines them all. The anime does do that from the events of the manga that had been released already, and we do get to know each of the characters more than just the harem stereotypes. We each hear their stories and we understand why they act a certain way. Unfortunately, we don't really see them overcome their inner fears, and unfortunately that is because the manga wasn't finished at the time the show came out. The show taught us how to love the characters, but they couldn't show their full stories. That's why the fans went to the manga soon after, because they wanted to know what happened as the real ending. And yes, the manga does deliver for each of the characters. Because the final series is finished, Hattori gave each character a complete narrative. Yes, the twins don't share one narrative in particular as much as to be expected from a series like this. And this is when plot becomes really important. We put characters in stories because they form the plot, they push the plot along, and in ways they can end it. It doesn't need to be super specific or even like super climactic. Like, we're not suffering like giant issues with this series, but it just has to be interesting enough that the plot can teach us something new about the characters that we're dealing with, and it doesn't rehash what we knew from the get-go. I feel like I should be spoiling this series because a lot of people know what's gonna happen, despite that they read it or not. But I think that would be completely unfair. So when it comes to favorite characters throughout the series as two mediums combined, I love Hikaru, the better twin, and Tamaki. Hikaru, out of the two twins, is definitely the most developed. Not only did he even say that he had feelings for Haruhi at some point, even if it was against his brother's desire, he has the harder time when it comes to being different from his brother Kaoru. When we first get to the twins' backstory, we had an idea that Hikaru wanted to be his own person ever since childhood. It was harder to make friends when the other kids didn't even know how to tell Hikaru and Kaoru apart. Yeah, the twin act was played up in the host club, just as that, an act, but in real life, Hikaru wanted his wish granted, and it was because he met Haruhi that he was able to find himself. Tamaki almost had the same process, but he has no twin, so it was not exactly like Hikaru's. Tamaki had hidden from a lot of people about his past, especially when it came to his parents. Of course, he played up his confident act to ensure other people that he was fine when really there was something eating at him from the inside out. That was not the only thing that he would cover up. I mentioned earlier that Tamaki always hid his feelings, no matter what the situation was about. But the biggest one was about Haruhi herself. He always played up the father-daughter act, even though that really pisses off Haruhi's cross-dressing father, because he really didn't want to face the fact that he really liked Haruhi. The only thing I can't understand is why he would really keep that a secret. It's easy to say that he probably had no idea, but in all honesty, we all know that he does. And there's no hiding that. Still, considering what he has been hiding from everyone, it shouldn't really surprise me. I just appreciate that his hiding gets really discovered towards the end of the series, and that people slapped common sense into this guy. While some can see Tamaki's cheerful yet ignorant personality as annoying, but he's not really doing anything wrong, so I found it extremely charming. There are two characters that I really don't like in this series. One that I really hate more than anything else. The second that's just... he could have been improved better. Of course, the first character that I hate is Renge, because, first of all, she has no purpose in this series. There are more side characters from the manga that had more relevance than this stupid bitch. And she almost ruined the entire anime for me because she pops up at random times for literally no reason. And then the second character that I don't like, you can at me for this, Kyoya. Oh, Kyoya. Kyoya is just as interesting as a thin slice of white bread. Out of all the characters who've evolved or changed over the course of the series because of whatever happens, Kyoya is the person who doesn't change that much at all. And it's almost like if Kyoya wasn't in the series, everything else would have stayed the same. Yeah, everything would have stayed the same. Now that I think about it, I'm actually right. If Kyoya wasn't in the series at all, everything, or well, the majority of everything, would have progressed as it would with Kyoya in it. Speaking of the fact that there is development within these characters at some point in some of the mediums, it's definitely more than obvious which of the two mediums that we're talking about today also wins this category. It's the manga. As far as the subject is, the art of the characters and atmosphere are pretty much the same, except for some polishing in the anime, but that's always bound to happen. Because anime is, well, short for animation. Drawings that move, so everything's gotta be clean if it wants to be appealing. However, from what I've gathered, the manga and the anime give off two completely different vibes when designing their mediums. I watched the anime first before reading the manga, which I found in my town's library, and the show gave off a very comedic and colorful atmosphere, which definitely should because there are a lot of funny moments in this show. Still, it's not afraid to get into the drama, and it does show important backstory with muted color, but it doesn't tone out the original atmosphere to make it dreary. It proves that it can do both lighthearted and serious moments without sacrificing the show's important elements that it takes from the manga. Speaking of the manga, the drawn art is absolutely gorgeous, from the backgrounds to the character designs. Everything is sharp and sleek because of the environment the main character has to live in for the rest of her high school career. Cutesy art is still added to form the humorous jokes and flops to give the readers a laugh. Though the art looks more like it was pulled from a dramatic romance manga, it's not the art alone that creates the atmosphere of genres. It's how the characters react to the situations going on. That doesn't stop the drama from seeping in because as the series continues out, a lot more situations come in and form a reality that the readers understand. No genre element undermined when trying to get the story from point A to point B. Does this mean that one is superior over the other? Not exactly. I think that depends on a fan's perception of the story as a whole. While some people like the dramatic look for the series, others might have imagined Ouran to look more like the anime, and there is no wrong answer for it. Both anime and manga strike their poses perfectly, and many fans can agree that the series is wonderfully made regardless of which form they prefer. Though there is really no winner for the design portion of this review battle, the obvious winner of versus this episode is... Yeah, we kind of saw this coming, but I wanted to do this review because none of the mediums are considered bad. As far as you can see from how I portrayed this video, both of these mediums, or even the whole series as a whole, has been gigantically praised. Like, for over a decade, this series has been praised highly. The anime tells what the manga had out at the time very well. It gave our favorite characters the spotlight that they deserved, and it brought the Ouran atmosphere the way that the majority of us imagined it to be. Despite getting rid of some filler moments in the first half of the manga, I think they made the right decision. However, the downside is that the anime for the original series was made during the time when the anime industry loved taking their popular series that weren't done yet as a promotional tool rather than stretching important points to the manga. They did it with Fullmetal Alchemist until the series was redone with Brotherhood in 2009. They did it with Hellsing until it was revived a little bit with the OVA in 2006. Kaze no Stigma fell into the same problem, but because the writer passed away with the series left incomplete, there's probably no way we're gonna get a season 2. Even the anime as long as Soul Eater fell flat with a lackluster ending because the manga wasn't finished until 2013. Even though Ouran ended on a climactic plot point of the series, it also left us with a major cliffhanger, which the fans, including myself, were aggravated to see. However, because of the series' originality, that doesn't stop people from watching what the anime creators have made so far. If someone really loves the manga, who wouldn't watch it animated? The same goes for the other series I just mentioned. Though a specific version may not tell the manga's entire story, it wouldn't exactly ruin a viewer's experience. Anime is made to give the audience a perspective on what would happen if the images on the manga page actually moved. It's like taking our great American comics and setting them to film or animation. We are seeing adaptations from classics and putting them into motion. Do they have to be set in stone? No. But do they have to honor the source material? I highly believe so. Though the manga is totally a lot more finished, Ouran High School Host Club is a fantastic series no matter where you first learned about it from. It definitely set the standards for more realistic characters and gave us some of the most memorable ones overall. I'm Cait, Cher, and it's been real. Ciao!